Hello, everyone, and welcome back. Mix 1041 and MixTV.tv. And looky there from Hazard, Kentucky, it's Olivia Calfee. Olivia, how in the world are you?
I am good. How are you?
I'm doing good, and a big congratulations to you. You've just won the Rookie of the Year from the Kentucky Broadcasters Association and the award for feature reporting at their big award show last weekend. Olivia, congratulations.
Thank you so much. It's so crazy to me. I think I was in shock for a few days.
Well, look, you're a Cleveland High School alum. You came out of CHS Live, and so I wanna work up to what happened with you the other night. But I know, and knowing you, of course, you're from here in Cleveland, and your family. You've always been interested in broadcasting, haven't you?
I have. Honestly, it started really in middle school. It's kind
Yeah.
of crazy. Yeah, I took classes at Cleveland Middle School. They had a broadcasting class. I think it was in eighth grade that I did it. And then whenever I moved into the high school, I joined CHS Live with John Souders and did that for 4 years and just fell in love with it.
And I know, and in knowing you, I know that you also love sports, and that's also one of your passions. But so tell me how this happened. How did you get to Hazard, Kentucky, doing news?
It's actually kind of a funny story. My professor in college, I believe it was my sophomore year, her name was Brittany Tarwater, and she just got into teaching because she knew what students needed to learn to get into the industry. And she was also a news anchor at WVLT in Knoxville. And she started at WYMT in Hazard. And so I remember my sophomore year, she talked about Hazard, Kentucky. She talked about WYMT. And I actually remembered telling my parents, there is no way I'm moving to Hazard, Kentucky. Absolutely not. And fast forward a couple years, I just stayed in touch with her. I interned at WVLT, and she called me my senior year and was like, hey, you need to contact my old general manager. You need to talk to him. I really think that you would enjoy it. So I was really stressed out. I remember telling people my senior year in college, like the last semester, I would say, I feel like I'm going through like a young life crisis because I was trying to really figure out what I wanted to do. And I had posted my reel on YouTube actually and ended up having a really good response. I was very blessed with a lot of news directors and general managers reaching out to me. But I ended up on the phone with the general manager at WYMT and started talking to him. And out of all the phone calls that I had, I talked to him on the phone for an hour.
Wow.
And I
Wow.
remember, yeah, I remember hanging up the phone and I was just like, that was such a good conversation. And I could just tell that they were great people, that it was a great place. And I knew that they would invest in me. But he asked me to come down for an interview. And complete honesty,
Hmm.
I remember just crying
Oh,
my eyes
wow.
out. I was like, what am I doing? I said before, I will not move to Eastern Kentucky. I don't want to live in Hazard. I just don't think it's the place for me. And I had a week to make a decision. He offered me a job. I had a week to make a decision. I remember I put it on the back burner. I told my family, I don't think it's the place for me. I'm not accepting the job. When in the back of my mind, I knew all along. I had actually been praying. It was kind of funny, just that the Lord would open doors that were meant for me and close ones that are not. And I got on the phone with, I had talked to a bunch of people, and my professor going back to college, Brittany Tarwater, sat me down and she was just like, Olivia, do you feel like this is actually a place that is going to be the right fit for you? You're just scared. And
Mm.
I was like, I think so. And none of it made sense. And I was in the middle of other interviews with other stations. And that Friday, I turned the other interviews down, just kind of stopped them in the middle and accepted the job and had no idea what I was doing. I was absolutely terrified. But that's kind of how I got here. And then everything else really made sense a few weeks into my job, I would say. But
And so what made sense about it a few weeks in?
well, had I had no idea really what I was doing. I just told you that, and a few weeks in, I don't know if you've heard about it, but the floods of Eastern Kentucky,
Oh, absolutely. Yeah.
that's where I live. So
Wow.
5 minutes from the house I was barely moved into, honestly, still unpacking, people were picking up the pieces of their homes and had lost everything. And a big part of my interview process with my general manager was how much I loved mission work and how much I wanted to go back to Haiti. And I remember him telling me, like, if you get an opportunity, we'll let you go. And it was not even 3 weeks into my job here that the floods hit. And I didn't have power for days. And I was still in the training process. I wasn't even reporting, I wasn't anchoring. And I just remember feeling like, okay, they don't know if they can trust me here yet, but I've got to get out in the community. And I wasn't even finished with training. They let me go out. And I just remember meeting the people in the community, meeting the people, hearing the stories. And I was like, you know what? Like, this all makes sense. Like, this is why the Lord wanted me here. He knew this was going to happen. And now my mission field, I mean, I've always known that it's in your backyard, but it was literally in my backyard. And so throughout this year, that's just been my heart, was just, I fell in love with the people here so fast, and it all made sense. So
We're joined, if you're listening on the radio, we're joined by Olivia Calfee, a Cleveland High School graduate who is now in Hazard, Kentucky. And this past weekend, last weekend, she won a couple of big awards from the Kentucky Broadcasters Association. So let's take it each of them. Rookie of the Year. Tell me about that.
About the award,
Yeah.
or just
Yeah.
the whole process? Well, I will tell you, I was not expecting it at all. My news director had actually reached out and was like, hey, can you put together a bunch of clips of all of your work over the last year? And I did. And she had submitted it through the Kentucky Broadcasters Association. And come to find out, a few weeks after she had submitted it, I get an email and find out I'm a finalist for the Rookie of the Year award.
Wow.
And I just remember shaking. I was in utter shock, because to me, this was the absolute biggest award that I could get at this point.
Yeah.
And typically, I remember he's actually the evening anchor. He used to be my co-anchor. He came up to me. He's been here for years. And he said, Olivia, this is such a big deal. I don't know if you realize it, but Lexington or Louisville stations always win this award. He was like, we've never won it.
Wow.
And I was just like, okay, well, I don't know what to do. I was up against a guy from Lexington, from a station there, and they have multiple stations and from multiple different networks and companies. But
Wow.
I remember finding out who the guy was that I was up against, and he's incredible. I had actually met him at a story probably a year ago now, and he was so nice to me. He was so good at what he did. And I was like, you know what? If he wins, that's awesome. And I really think he's going to win. I told my parents, I was like, I've convinced myself it's not me. And we had to wait like a month until the actual awards came around, and they called my name. And
Wow.
I was just, I don't think I've been that nervous in a really long time. I think just the build up to it all, but it was an absolutely incredible experience. And I never, ever expected it, but I think it was nice to see that all of my hard work from everything that I've done over the last year is finally starting to pay off.
You got that right. Then you went for feature reporting, and tell me about the story that you submitted.
Okay, so going back to the floods, that's been a lot of my stories over the last year, but one of the first stories that I ever told And it was just a couple days after the flood. The flood hit on July 28th, and this was on August 4th. So a few days before, I had seen a Facebook post, and it was this little girl. She's 4 years old. Her name is Ada. She was standing on the front porch of her home. Everything, all of her toys, all of her clothes were in the front yard. There was mud everywhere, and she's holding a penny. And the person that posted it said, everything that she's lost, she screams, "I'm lucky because of this penny." And I'm like, I have to meet this little girl. And so I had gotten in contact with her parents and actually went to her house and started talking to her. And it was just such an interesting story to see something so devastating through the eyes of a little kid. And she just had this spunk, and they always find the positivity in things. And she thought she was lucky, despite everyone else looking at her saying, "Oh my word, you don't have anything left." And the story just ended up being really cool. And I got to spend the day with her, and I still keep in contact with her mom. Actually, she texted me the other day and was like, "Ada says you're her lucky penny girl. And we're
man.
so proud of you." So it was just a cool story, and one that I've always been super proud of, but never really expected to win anything for it because I did it so early on. So
We're joined by Olivia Calfee, and we're so proud of her, and we had an immense response when we put that out there that you had won. You got a lot of friends here. Of course, your family, so well thought of in Cleveland and Bradley County. So I heard Hazard, Kentucky. Now, I started thinking, I thought, well, wait a second. Dukes of Hazzard surely ties in here somehow. Is that right?
it does tie in. I was just telling you, so the show, it wasn't actually shot in Hazard, Kentucky. So that was Hazard County. I live in the city Hazard, but the cast and everyone has made numerous stops to where I live in Hazard. They've been at festivals and spent time here. So there is a connection. There's actually an old steakhouse here that was called the Dukes of Hazzard Steakhouse. So they definitely make it a thing, for sure.
And see, this aired long before you were born. So, I mean, but you're aware of the show. Is that right?
Yes, actually, it's really funny. My family had it on DVD.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
my brother and I have watched it.
Oh, man.
I've seen it.
Oh, you
And
have
so
seen it.
it's funny.
That's wonderful. Hey, what are you? So the job you do, you're an anchor and reporter. Is that right?
That is correct. Yes.
So look, I mean, I guess people down here could see you maybe on the website up there. Is that right?
Yes. Yeah, we have an app you can watch on the WYMT app. You can watch on WYMT.com. We also post our top stories on YouTube. So you can just search WYMT and they will all pop up. So I anchor the morning newscast. So you can see me every morning, every weekday morning, I guess, from 5 to 7.
So you're the early morning.
I am.
Oh, Olivia, I know something about early mornings. Yes, that's.
Yep, I wake up at 3 a.m. So I have a lot of fun, but I'm getting used to it.
Well, listen, what do you hope the future there in Hazard and also in your career? What are maybe a couple of things that come to mind that, as far as goals are concerned?
Well, right now I'm really just trying to enjoy it. I think for me, being so headstrong about not wanting to move here and then moving here and loving it has been so special for me. I always tell people, they'll look at me and say, "You're not staying here long, are you?" And that just hurts me. It breaks my heart. They're like, "The people always come and leave us." And I live in a very rural part of Kentucky, and just the people here really love that we cover Eastern Kentucky news. And so I've just enjoyed that so much, getting to connect with them. And I know I won't be here forever. And I tell them that. I always say Eastern Kentucky's felt like home, but I know it's not my forever home. And So right now I'm really just in a place where I want to enjoy it. And I feel like I learned my lesson a year ago saying that I wasn't going to move here. And I think whenever I try to make plans or we try to make plans, sometimes God laughs.
Yeah.
So I'm
Right.
really still in this, I'm just very, I guess, serious about continuing to pray that the Lord would open doors that are meant for me and close ones that are not, because I feel like he's got great plans for me and he put this dream in my heart a long, long time ago. And I'm just excited for what's to come. I don't really have a future goal or a future place I want to go.
Sure.
I'd love to stay close to home, but if an opportunity or a door opens, I'm not going to say no.
That's right.
That's just where I am. And, you mentioned sports earlier. I had always wanted to get into sports and never wanted to get into news and ended up falling in love with it. I think it's been such a growing opportunity for me. And I've just learned so much about the world. And I feel like, I said this yesterday, I feel like we often like to say that news is all bad. And I think if I can be that person that shows people that there is a little bit of good in this world, there's a lot of good, there's a lot of fantastic people and places and good things happening, then I'll do that forever.
Amen. Final question. Now I notice your the color of your dress there. Is that so you're a graduate of UT? You're a graduate of Cleveland High School, but is that Kentucky Blue Olivia Calfee?
I have to tell you, when I wore this, I was thinking, go Raiders.
Okay.
No, they love to give me a hard time here, thinking that they're going to turn me into a Kentucky fan. And I've actually started this thing where I wear orange, or I try to wear orange on Fridays.
Yep.
You never know. But
good.
Yeah, and anytime people ask where I came from or where I graduated from, I always leave them with a Go Vols.
There we go.
Trust me on that one.
There we go. Olivia, my goodness, we're proud of you and what you're doing there. Not just the awards, but the heart you have for people. And I know the Lord will continue to bless that. So thank you so much for joining us.
Well, thank you. I'm so glad that I got to talk to you for a little bit today. It's been great.
Great to see Olivia Calfee, everybody, from Hazard, Kentucky. And we're back with more in just a moment.